So for this assignment here, the outcome of mutation, you're going to be looking at some mutations that you've probably seen, and you're going to be looking at why they occur. So kind of taking a dive into what's happening inside the DNA of that organism that's causing this mutation. So in this table, you have the animal column, and this is filled out for you. So our first animal is going to be a Shar-Pei dog. And then what's the trait? So I go to the website up here, and it looks like this, and I click on the Shar-Pei dog, and the trait that we are looking at is that wrinkled skin that is distinctive to Shar-Pei dogs. Okay, so the trait you would write here is wrinkled skin. Is the protein structure changed? If so, how? So you need to go and kind of take a deep dive here into protein. So it says the affected protein in the Shar-Pei dog is HAS2. HAS2 is an enzyme that sits on the membrane of skin cells. It builds a large molecule called hydrolon and releases it outside the cell. HA surrounds skin cells to provide structural support. It's also a signaling molecule. It tells skin how to divide, and it guides moving cells into their proper place during development and wound healing. Nothing in here tells me if the protein is affected. So sometimes you have to go to the next tab, to DNA. So it says, like all genes, HAS2 has switches that control when and where it's turned on and off. Here, an extra on switch makes the HAS2 gene more active. So what that's telling me is the HAS2 protein itself is not affected here. The protein is fine. The protein functions normally. The gene change is in the DNA this time. And so it's in the HAS2 switch area, which is not part of the protein. So I would go here and I would say, is the protein structure changed? And I would put no. And then, is the protein function changed? And I would put yes. The protein function is changed because more of it is being made. You have these extra on switches. So, extra on switch makes the HAS2 gene more active in skin cells. So yes, the protein is more active with the mutation. Okay, so more of that protein is made. How is the DNA changed? Well, there is an extra on switch is encoded in the DNA. Okay, so just a description of how the DNA changed. And the last thing is, where else is this gene mutation found? So there's a tab for that here, examples in other species. And so here's an example in this gorgeous looking animal here called the naked mole rat. So this naked mole rat also has a variation of the HS2 gene, which makes it more active. This also tends to make mole rats less likely to get cancer, which is kind of cool. That mutation in that gene has a positive benefit for them too, as well as making them look hideous. Alright, so vertebrates that have HAS2 gene, and if it is required for life, when researchers removed the gene from mice, they all died. So they tried taking this out, because it just controls wrinkly skin, right? So they take it out, and the embryos all died. So it's actually required for life as well. Shar-Pei dogs, people who make too much hydrolon, also have thick wrinkled skin. So apparently this can occur in humans as well. And then naked mole rats have a variation of that as well. So you're going to probably get multiple animals that this affects, and apparently it affects all vertebrates. So we can put that. We could put all vertebrates. Vertebrates have this gene and mutation, or you could list one of the specific ones that they listed. So you could say occurs in people, or you could say it occurs in naked mole rats. Okay, it's up to you what you want to write there, as long as you write one other species or organism that this mutation occurs in. And then, is it a disease or a variation or both? So again, go back here, there's another tab for that. So is this a disease or a variation or both? And the answer is both. This is a variation in skin architecture, so that's not a health problem. It's just a change in skin. But if you have too much hyaluron, it can cause an immune response, and the skin can get inflamed and you can get a fever. So there's the disease part there. So this could actually be both. It could cause, it's just a variation that leads to more wrinkly skin, but it also could be a variation that could cause some sort of immune inflammatory response, and that could cause a problem in the body. So then we go to the next animal here, the double muscle cattle. And you go back here, just close this window, and then you do the same thing for the cattle here, the super beefy muscle cattle here. And you're going to read about the trait. You're going to figure out where's the change. So read this, and that will talk to you about what the change is, and then look for examples in other species, and then you can read about whether it's a variation, a disease, or whether it's both, and then you fill out the chart here, and you do that for the rest of these animals that you see here in this module.